In this video, this is the second part of the Vlookup function in Excel 2016. And in our previous video, we had a big, ugly sequence of if function calls. We've got 9 of them here to choose from among 10 different grades. And we end up with a very, very long formula. It's not a hard formula, but it is so long it's really easy to make a mistake. And we found out that we could do the equivalent just by using a lookup table over here and looking up the grade from column C in the table over here in J and K, and looking in column 2 to figure out what the person's grade was. Okay, so now we're going to look at a few more examples, and we're going to click on the discount tab here, and this has a simple discount rate table that looks at the quantity and then determines what the discount rate is. Okay, so the user will type in the quantity here in the light yellow box, and our formula here will look up the discount rate in the table over here. So we need to use the Vlookup. So I've still got my formulas tab up here from the last time, and go to lookup and reference and choose Vlookup. And what am I looking up? I'm looking up that number there in F2. So either type F2 or click on F2 while you're in this box, and it will look up the 999 for us. The table array does not include the headings. The table array is this stuff over here in columns B and C. And then the column index is in that table array. Once I find the number in the first column of the table, which column has the discount rate in it, and then it's going to be column 2. Frequently it's column 2, but not always. Okay? And if I click on OK now, and I go back here and look, 999 is not quite 1,000. I'm one short, so I back off and go to this row and take the number 6%. If I change this to 1,000, which I'm going to do right now, it should change to 9%. And it does. And if I change this to 9999, that is still going to be 9%, but if I change it to 10,000, whoops, if I add one more onto it, 10,000, should go to 12%, and it does. Okay. Notice when I did this formula, I did not make the table absolute because I'm not copying it. It might not be a bad idea just to get in the habit of putting those dollar signs in there whenever you refer to a lookup table, because the lookup table is never going to move regardless. Okay. So let's get out of this sheet and let's go take a look at another one called taxes. And what I have over here is some names and some salaries, and I want to look up the tax rate. And I've got a table over here that tells me what the tax rate is if I know what the salary is. And with something like this, we've got 5,000 values, actually more than that if you count cents in here. But we've got 5,000 whole number values in between these two numbers, and we can't list all of them in the table, so remember that it goes until, look at Breedy here, and it goes until it finds a number that is equal to that or bigger than it. So that is not going to work, but this one is bigger, so then you back up one, and we should get 8% for his tax rate. And the only reason that this can work is because we've got these numbers here in ascending order. They have to be in increasing order in order for this to work, because if you have a value that does not show up in column E here, it will fall between two numbers in column E, and so then you just find out which two numbers it's between, take the lower one, and go over to column 2, and you've got the tax rate. Okay, so now let's go to C2 here, and let's go to lookup and reference, and let's do a Vlookup. And the lookup value is the person's salary, so click on B2, should say B2 over here, and should show you his salary of $43,999. The table array is all of this stuff here, and I am going to be copying this, so I'm going to hit F4 now to put my dollar signs in, otherwise it's not going to copy correctly. And then the last thing is what is the column index number of the value that I want to return. And here's column 1 of my table, and here's column 2 of my table. So I want to put the number 2 in there. And we don't need this last argument, so we'll just skip it. Click on OK. And it says his rate is 8%, which is correct. And if we get this and copy it all the way down, I'll bet you all those other numbers are correct as well. Okay. Now let's go to one that's a little more interesting here. This is some data from a web page, and what we have is we have page ID numbers rather than page names, and we have a number of page views for each page, and then we calculate what the percentage hit is. In other words, how many people coming to your site click on that page. And that's probably the home page up there in row 4, because we're getting almost half of our hits directly on that page. Okay, so where's my lookup table? Well, here's my lookup table. I've got a pages table over here, and I've got a page ID in this column, and I've got the name of the page over here. So that's where our table is. Now let's go back over to page views, and let's go to our top yellow box, which is where we're going to put our formulas, and go to Vlookup. And my lookup value is going to be the page ID, and the table array is going to be from A2 over and down to the bottom, and I better make that a absolute cell reference. Let's hit F4 there, and the column index number is going to be column 2, which is what it's been, I think, in every example, and then click on OK. And it was not the home page, it was local business. Now let's click and drag this down. I'm not going all the way down, but we've got some problems here. First of all, local business 1 keeps popping up over and over and over again, and all of the web page names should be unique. I shouldn't have 2 pages called local business 1, and I'm getting it a whole bunch of times. Plus I'm getting this NA, which means it's not available. It can't find the answer, and so it's not working correctly. Okay, so what is it doing incorrectly? Well, let's go back and look at our pages over here, and the problem is we've got numbers here for our page ID, but they're different from the numbers in the previous examples because they're not in ascending order, and they really shouldn't have to be, because we're expecting that we will always find a match in here. And if we have something between 28,000,000,546 and 28,000,000,600, then they would have to be in ascending order. But what we're expecting here is we're expecting to find an exact match every time that we look up a page ID, because every page has an ID and they're all going to be listed in this column here. So we have a little bit of a problem. Let's go back here to our page views, and let's go here, and we can either double click on the formula and get a little one-line editor, or I'm going to hit escape now. We can click on the FX here, and notice I moved back up to D4. So the lookup value is still the same. The table array is still the same. I'm still going to column 2, but I need to use that last argument that I haven't used before. So this is a logical value. You either put the value true or the value false. And if we're looking for the closest match, like we were doing with our taxes and our discount and our grades, we don't use this 4th argument here. That's why it's not in bold. So if it's not a bold, it means it's an optional argument. But if I want to do an exact match, then I have to put false in here for the last argument. And tab out of there. And now click on OK. And now see, it says home page now, which makes a lot of sense. So now I'm going to click this and drag it all the way down to the bottom. And what you're going to see is they are all unique names now. I don't see that not available anymore. That's #NA, I think, is what showed up. So this is correct. And the important thing here is if you're doing an exact lookup, you have to find this value exactly. You don't find the one closest to it. You find the exact value. Then you have to use that 4th argument in here, and you have to set it to false. Okay. So there are no formulas due on pages. That's a data tab or data page for us. Let's go to part price here. And what I want to do is I want to have somebody type in a part number here, and then I want to look up the part price, the part name, and the status. Okay. So let's go down here to G3, and let's go to lookup and reference, and let's go to Vlookup. And the lookup value is up here in G2. My table array, this is a little different. We've got 4 columns in our table array this time. So select everything down to D52, and I don't really need to make that absolute because I'm not copying the formula, but I think I will anyway, just because it doesn't hurt, and most of the time you do need to do that. And then I want my column index number for the part price. Well, here's column 1, here's column 2, here's column 3. So the part price is in column 3. So put a 3 in there, and then tell it false, and that means we're doing an exact lookup. And A002 is this row right here, and we should get, and let me see. So that's the price. Yes, 380.73. And I need to do 2 more lookups here. I'm supposed to look up the part name and the status. So let's go here and do another lookup again and do a VLOOKUP. And the value I'm looking up is up here in G2. My table array is everything from A3 down to the end here. And whoops, I hit enter instead of just clicking back up there. Let me see if I can fix that. Okay, so I'm looking up G2 and A3. Let's see if we'll do that. Okay, so I'm looking up G2, which is this, and my table array is kind of goofed up here, so I'm going to delete that, and I'm going to be more careful this time and not hit the enter key when I'm done. So scroll down from A3, I think it is, all the way down to row 52, and I'm going to make that absolute. Hit function key F4, and the column index number for the part name is column 2, and I'm doing exact lookup again, so I got to put false in here, and now it gave me the part name, and apparently when I goofed up there a minute ago, I got this in the wrong place. So let's see what happens if we take this and just copy it up there. And it looks like it still works. I lost my yellow here, but that's not a big deal. I'll just take this one, go to my home tab, click on the format painter, and repaint that cell, and now we're good to go on the status. So let's go to our formulas and go to lookup and reference, and let's go to VLOOKUP, and this time I want the status, and again it's G2, and the table array is from A3 over and down to the bottom of column D in row 52, and I'll make that absolute by hitting my function key F4, and the column index number for the status is the 4th column of the table. A is 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so we'll put a 4 in there, and then we're doing an exact lookup, so we have to put false here and to go ahead and do that, and it will tell us that it's in stock. Okay, let's try A006. Let me double click on this and change the 2 to a 6. And now it's looking up everything for this. Should say oil pan 101.89 and out of stock. Okay. And we're going to do one more example. I've got 2 tabs here, but we're skipping that last tab. I want to do a lookup again of somebody's name in the table. So let's enter somebody's name there. Let's do George. And hit enter, and we want to look up his phone number, so we're going to go to our lookup and reference, and we're going to go to VLOOKUP, and the lookup value is the person's name, and tab down or click down the next box, and the table array is from here down to here, A2 to B12. My column index number is column 2 to find the person's phone number, and we'll just click on OK here. And it tells me that George's phone number is 555-9876. Okay. Now let's try entering in Tom. Tom is not on the list, so it should come back and tell me it's not on the list. But instead, it tells me that Tom's phone number is 555-1111, which is this one right here. And so what I did was it went until it found a value greater than Tom, something in the alphabet that it would be after the word Tom, and it doesn't find anything here, so that means basically that Tom is off the chart, which means you have to back up 1 and then go over 1, and it's giving me that for Tom's phone number, and that's not really Tom's phone number, so it'd probably be better if we didn't do that. So let's go back here again, click on the FX, and I want to do, with text, you probably almost always want to do an exact lookup. With numbers, most of the time you probably do not, because you can't make a list of all possible values, but with text like this, it is possible. So let's go ahead and click on OK. And now what we get is, we get that there is no phone number there for Tom. And let's go back and put in somebody else that is in there. Let's do Ringo. And it comes up with Ringo's number for me. So big thing to remember, if you do an exact lookup when you're doing a VLOOKUP, you have to put that fourth argument in there with a value of false. Otherwise, I think the rest of it is pretty straightforward.